Hey everybody, welcome to Service and Sacrifice. This is Justin, and I have a special guest with me, Vincent Wolf from my unit. Say hi, Vincent.
Everyone.
All right, so we're just gonna be chatting, but you were just about to tell a story about when I got to the unit or something. So
I had never been around somebody that like complained so much of like about everything, but usually like people would make jokes about like, oh, I hope we stay until 10 o'clock tonight. I hope we don't go home tonight because we're missing something. And then you would come around when you came around, when you first got to our unit, I was like, dude, where has this guy been? He's just walking around funny. Sometimes I would walk up to you and I would just have nothing to say and I'd be like, dude, just do something. You're funny.
dude, it's funny because what unit were you in? Were you in Charlie Battery the whole time?
Yeah. For until I went to the Pipers.
I forgot you did that. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
you gotta tell that story later. But see, I started off in Bravo.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, but 218 unit had Alpha Bravo Charlie, and then I think one other like random unit or something. But anyway, I was in Bravo and I was there for a year, and then the unit disbanded because they changed it from like each battery had 3 MLRS tracks and they combined it to like each one now has like 5 or some shit. So they disbanded Bravo. A bunch of my friends ETS and PCS to Korea or got kicked out. And then I was forced to go into Charlie, which did not have a good reputation for the leadership. I was upset, dude. Like I was not in a good mood. Like you guys were all like, "Yeah, we're all having fun."
But that's what made you so funny. And I would just be like, why? Tell me, Alex, and what makes you upset about it? And then you and dude, I remember when we first started talking, I was like, dude, you're gonna get along so well with Spivey. It's gonna be incredible. Because everybody hated him. That's the leadership you're talking about.
Yes, First Sergeant Spivey was the highest ranking NCO, and then Norris was the captain. And dude, to be honest with you, like it's funny you mentioned that. Like behind closed doors, Spivey and I got along pretty well. Like when we were just the
Were you
current.
telling me that? Yeah.
Yeah, but like I did not like Norris at all. I think I just in general didn't like officers. I don't know. I came from a unit that had like Bravo had a really good first sergeant. He was really cool. Like I could tell he genuinely cared about us. And the captain was so cool. And then I went over there and I was just like, man, I went from a track, which in our MOS is like probably the highlight, right? Like everybody wants to be in a track and like shoot rockets and shit. And then they were like, oh, we have too many people. So now you're going to ammo, which is where they send like the step kids. They're like, nobody likes you. You go to ammo.
Yep, Meeks and me. And there was a bunch of people nobody really liked. So I got to hang out with all of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Ammo. For those of you that don't know, just drive around in these trucks that have like a crane and you drive to locations and the crane just drops the big ammo pod and then they drive off and like sit in the woods for 6 hours. And then the launcher comes and picks it up. So I was pissed about that because it's like, it was considered like a demotion, but all the tracks were full. And I was just like, yeah, man, I gotta get out of here. I gotta not do this anymore.
I remember there was a competition in Guernsey for ammo. Do you remember Hamilton? Sergeant Hamilton?
Yes.
Him and another NCO, I forgot his name, but they were telling me, and a bunch of other guys were like, "We just want you to qualify. We just want you to qualify." And in that competition for ammo, all you do is just pick the ammo out of the back of the semi, pretty much the 18 wheeler. You put it on the ground, pick it back up, and put it back in. And I smoked those guys, dude. I got first place in that. That was where all the like, you drink too much, you don't get high enough on your PT score, you don't show up to formation on time, you have too long of hair. Those were those guys. And then the launchers were the 300 PT scores, the 40 rifle.
Yeah. Yeah. I was in a launcher for Wyoming. My launcher actually did, I think we scored top 3 in the brigade for that like fire mission test. Basically, it was really weird. Like we all started sitting in the launcher and some guy had like a stopwatch. You had to like climb down the launcher and make sure you had like 3 points of contact. And like I was standing there like, dude, I was so nervous, like lowering the crane thing, picking it up. But yeah, we got number 3. So that was cool.
Nice.
I specifically remembered because my sergeant was like, "Hey, we're definitely getting at least coins for this, right?" And I was like,
Yeah, yeah.
"Sick, my first coin." And I was waiting for my lieutenant to give me a coin, but his driver the lieutenant driver was ETSing like a month later, who didn't do
So you
shit in Wyoming, by the way. He literally read a book the whole time, and they were like, actually, we're going to give it to him because he's leaving. And I was like,
dude, that
so
happens
that
so
was,
much in the army, man. It's like we know you did a really good job, but but
but this guy's leaving, so we got to reward him.
man, that was my first little field trip with 75th. That was a lot of fun. Dude, I slept out on the ground and everything. I got my poncho liner out, all of it. I did the whole fucking camping thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was fun. It was an experience, though.
I don't think anybody thought it was fun except me. Dude, do you remember Scott, our supply guy?
Yeah,
He thought I
he
was
let me steal a
just
bunch of MREs.
really. He thought I was a lot of fun because I just loved everything. And he's like, "Tell me what'd you do today?" I'd tell him, "Well, I went for a 5 mile ruck and then I qualified with my rifle and then first sergeant screamed at me and I had a great day." Like, that's great, Wolf. That's great. I'm happy for you. Well, sounds like you're doing
Yeah,
well.
I didn't ask you before, but why don't you give a little intro into your service? When'd you join? When'd you get out? Why'd you join? Why'd you get out?
I joined in 2010, uh, August 2010, and then I got out in 2015, and that's 5 years. And I had a lot of fun in the army. Um, but I don't know. I think it was just time to go, man. I had seen a lot of stuff that I didn't really like. People treated other people pretty badly a lot of times, and a lot of times I was encouraged. I don't know. I don't know. It was just going sour at the time. There was a lot of different things. The reason I got out, I just didn't see it as a positive anymore, and I wanted to leave. That's it. I don't want to say anything bad, you know.
Why'd you do 5 years? Did you get a bonus or something?
No, I wanted to re-enlist to another MOS. I wanted to go overseas really, really bad. When I went to re-enlistment, it was all gone. You know, the only thing that was available was 11 Bravo. I don't want to do that, dude. That's like grind you onto the dirt. And I just heard a lot of bad things about 11 Bravo, but I wanted to re-enlist for like Fister. First Sergeant talked it up pretty well. I wanted to be Fister or Cav Scout or some other stuff, but it just didn't happen. Just re-enlist to 13 Mike again, see how it rolls out. At the end of the re-enlistment, I'll see if I want to stay or not, and didn't want to.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember because on one of the last episodes, I was talking with Norden, who I'm sure you remember, and we
Yeah,
were
yeah,
talking about how I stayed on back on rear D because I didn't have enough time and I didn't extend. And you were with me, right?
yeah.
Why didn't you go? Did you PCS to Korea?
No, it wasn't that. I think nobody said this, right? Nobody ever said this. I was the armorer at the time. Captain Norris came in there, our battery commander. You'd come in there sometimes, and it felt like he was like looking for me to like kiss his ass. And I never would. He would say I remember we had a bit of a conversation. I disagreed with him, right? And we would disagree on things. And I think I didn't go because of him, but nobody's ever said that. When they put me on rear D, they put me in as like battalion arms room in Seattle. They did not leave me in good hands.
So wait, how much time did you have left in your contract when they all left? You must have had like 2 years left, right?
So yeah, I think you guys left when I re-enlisted. So I had like a fresh 3 years to go because I remember about halfway through your guys' deployment, why don't you put me in the bagpiper so I can get out of here? And he's like, well, you got to do this, this, and this. And I was like, all right, that's cool. And I think he made it to where there was no way I was going to be able to do it. And then the next week I did it. And he's like, I got to send him now. So I went and then I got into the Pipers and I stayed there for like a year. And then I went to Korea for a year. And then I came back for like, I don't know, 8 months, 6 months, something like that. I went to Vegas when I came back, the NTC.
Wait, did you apply to be in the bagpipers or you were forced?
No, no. Okay, so when I was on Rear D, did you ETS when I was on Rear D?
Yeah, but we were there for a while together. Like we were there for at least 6 months, and then I ETS'd.
So I can't remember when you ETS to be honest. I remember you busted your foot up really bad. That
I
was
got out
pretty.
mid-December, 2012.
So I made a deal with, do you remember First Sergeant Blizzard?
Ghost was my retirement fund.
Yeah. Dude, he used to say something all,
That's what he used to say. It goes towards my retirement fund.
my God, dude. First learned Blizzard was something else. So he said he came to me when I was drunk on like a Tuesday or a Wednesday or a Thursday something. He's like, "Hey Wolf, what are you doing?" And he was like, "Hey, we got a detail coming down. Nobody wants to do it, and and I was like, "What is it?" He's like, "It's a bagpiping detail." I was like, "Oh my God, dude, I'll do that." He's like, "I didn't think you would." And he kind of started to back out of it, and he just left. And so, like the next day or something like that, he's like, "Hey, I'm going to call it out in formation to see if anybody else wants to do it. And if anybody else wants to do it, then they're going to go because I can't send you because you're the battalion armorer." I was like, "Oh my God, he's going to use this one." So he was like, "Hey," he called it out in formation. Nobody wanted to do it. I raised my hand like, with that stupid smile that I always have. And he's like, "All right, well, you got to pass this battalion inspection with a 98 percentile and I'll let you go." And I was like, "All right." I didn't think it was going to happen. Some people helped me out and I passed and I got to go to the bank. I actually had to try out too. So they asked me, I had an interview. They're like, "Do you have any musical experience?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, definitely." They're like, "You're a guitar player, aren't you?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "You read tabs, don't you?" And I was like, "Yeah." "Well, we'll go ahead and take you, but you're gonna have to learn how to sight read." And that was a whole, my God, that was completely different from the army.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
imagine. So what did you do? Just play the bagpipe all day?
Oh yeah. All they okay, so they interviewed me, they accepted me, they took me in, and then they introduced me around. And the bagpipers are a separate little detail of the band, right? It's the 77th Army Band is what it's called, right? So they're obviously a marching band. There's a drummer, tuba player, that kind of thing, like the high school marching band. It's those guys, but in the army, right? But they all play like normal instruments as well because they've been doing this their whole life. So some of them play drums, guitar, bass. Some of them sing. Some of them play what's that? It's like a guitar it's like a country guitar you play on the side. I don't know.
A banjo?
No, I didn't see a banjo actually. There
I
were
know what
so
you're
many
talking about.
instruments.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were so many instruments. And I was army, right? I was artillery. And there was another artillery, there was two artillerymen, ADA guy, there was a chemical guy, and me. And they kind of were in a closet all to ourselves, and they gave me what's called a chanter. And it's just like a recorder flute, you know what I mean? And you sit there and you drill. So Sergeant Fortune led the whole thing, right? And he was the founder of it was called Costello's Own, right? So I got to know these guys, and at this time I still didn't have a vehicle. So people had to drive me everywhere. Do you remember that? I would just walk everywhere.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't have cars and then like if you had a car, you were forced to pick people up. It was
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Go drive these people around.
Do you want to circle back to Rear D and talk about Parrish?
I talked in my last episode about how I thought Rear D was like a hidden gem in the army because like I don't remember doing much of anything for 8 months. Like our NCOs were just PCSing to Korea, ETSing out of the army, or were hurt and couldn't deploy. So dude, I feel like we didn't do much. One day on Rear D, we were in formation, like a little formation, and I was a pretty grumpy specialist because I was getting out soon, right? And I just hated everybody. And these two kids in the front who I didn't recognize turned around and they were both E3s. And one was Parrish and one was Wolford. And these two were just like Tweedledee and Tweedledum, the craziest goofy dudes. Parrish talked in like he talked in like an old timey Chicago accent, something from the 70s.
I would have
Yeah.
said like the 30s. He came out of like a sitcom. He had an IQ of like 73.
Dude, it's so funny that you said a sitcom. He really was just an interesting dude.
You know, he married a drill sergeant.
Nah, but that's pretty cool.
Dude, all right. So me and Parrish, we got along pretty well initially, and then we had a bit of a falling out, right? So I thought he was hilarious because he was a walking, talking, living, breathing cartoon, and I just couldn't get enough of him. I thought he was so funny, dude. Dude, me and Parrish had probably the best adventures I've ever had in the Army. Me and him would go to Oklahoma City and just, we would lose our minds. We got into some fun times. We met these volleyball girls from that OU or the Sooners or some, I don't know. Yeah, one of the colleges up there. And dude, it was really fun to be around him at a bar or a club because Parrish, I'll explain him, right? Because it's true, it's accurate. Girls would lose their minds over this guy. He looked all of his body like American Eagle model, right? And girls loved, was built perfectly. Like he was perfectly symmetrical. He was tan. He had great hair. He was the thing that women wanted. Dude, I swear to God, you would have to be there, man. Cause I would watch. I would watch. And it was like, dude, I've never seen women fall over for a guy. And it happened every time, everywhere we went, bars, clubs, walking down the street, everywhere. Didn't matter where it was. Women just, he got him. So I would be on they tested him for steroids like every month.
Yeah, he failed, right? I mean, he passed because he
No,
didn't
he
take any.
passed. He was,
Yeah.
dude, I remember asking him one time, we'd go on like mile runs, like miles and miles and miles. And he'd be like, I never get tired. I never tired.
That's literally that's literally how we talk, dude. It was like
All the
Paulie D
time.
from Jersey Shore, but a Chicago version. And like everything he said was like a catchphrase. He never was just like, "Hey, how are you doing?" He's like, "How you doing? It's me,
What you
Nikki P.
fucking
How you
doing,
doing?"
Wolf? Come here. Hey, we gotta go get some Turkish cigarettes over here.
You mentioned a story the other day, which was he had this Jeep Wrangler, which he referred to it as the
My
Wrangler.
God.
And it was manual, like didn't have, it was like the cheapest. He purposely bought it cheap because it looked more like badass. And he would roll the windows up in the summertime and he'd be
We
like,
got a sweat in here.
he'd be like, I'm not hot enough, I gotta sweat. And keep in mind, Oklahoma in the summertime is like 105, 110
It
all
gets to like
day.
125, dude.
Yeah, it was hot.
Me and him looked at it.
Yeah, it was hot, and he would crank the heat, dude. And I'm just like stroking out in this Wrangler.
I feel like sweating. I'm in the mood to sweat, Wolf. Why you turning on the AC?
We would go to the gym like every day for a while, and he had this is back before Jack 3D became illegal, and we would take it and rub it on our gums, the pre-workout. He'd be like, he's like, this is gonna hit you faster, trust me. And I'm like, okay, cool. And then we'd go to the gym on base, which is, it's people working out, but like no one's really like muscular in the army, right? Everyone just runs, and
Yeah.
we're over there just throwing weight around, dude. He's looking like an absolute chimpanzee with his slick back hair.
Dude, he was strong, man. He was in great shape. I remember it was me, you, and him that we were going to the gym that day. Both of you were in my barracks. And you're like, hey, Wolf, did you get new protein and new pre-workout? And I was like, yeah, dude. And he's like, you should stack that. You said this because I remember this really well. You said you should stack that. I was like, okay, I don't know what that means. And then you're like, all right, like you went to the Wrangler. You went outside to his Wrangler, and I put the protein and pre-workout in the same bottle, and I shook it up and drank it because I didn't know what you meant by stack it. Do you remember that little interaction we had?
What did I mean by it?
Just, you know, take pre-workout before a workout and then take protein after the workout. Just normal stuff. You weren't speaking like some crazy workout stuff to me. I just didn't know what you meant.
Yeah, this one time, because we would go work out, and then we sometimes would go back to my place and watch like bodybuilders on YouTube, like professionals. And dude, he was like, I don't know why, I don't know where he came up with this. I think some professional bodybuilder ate like 10 double cheeseburgers from McDonald's one day, and he's like, dude, we got to do this. We're gonna get huge. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense, but like, I just want to build as much muscle as possible. So we had a sick pump one time, and then we roll up to McDonald's in his Jeep, and he's like, "Yeah, 12 double McCheeseburgers." And bro, I ate like 6 of them, and I felt so disgusting.
That's nasty, man. That's gross, dude.
Do you remember? I don't know why, but for Sergeant Blizzard like knew we were lifting together, right?
Yeah.
And well, like me and Parrish were lifting, and He's like, "How much you benching, Wellickson?" And at the time I was like 21 and I hit 365 and he's like that ain't nothing. He's like, "Let me know when you hit 500." I was like, "Okay, First Sergeant." And dude, do you remember he made us bench press like a log until failure?
Nah.
Me and First Sergeant Blizzard got on our backs on the floor and we had a log, like a big ass log that a whole team is meant to carry. And we were pushing it. And he's like, whoever stops pushing first fails. And I like didn't want to do this at all. I was like, I don't have to prove anything. And we were just pushing it. Of course he won because he's this massive black dude.
He was pretty, dude. He was as big as you are now, but like he was pretty much, he was muscle, man. He was a, but
Yeah.
dude, he was funny too. He was a pretty straight shooting guy, man. Because I think he made that deal with me because he didn't think I was gonna pass. And then after, when I was doing it, he sent a guy to interview me. I was in the Army Times, dude, and
Really?
or it was like Fort Sill Times. Sorry, I don't think it was. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It wasn't the Army Times. It was like Fort Sill Times or
Okay,
whatever.
big difference. Very
Yeah,
big
yeah, yeah.
difference. But yeah, continue. You're like, I was featured on the military's website. And you're like, it was just the base website.
Somebody's gonna see this video and like research and be like, "Oh, Wolf stole valor, bro." No, I was like on the Fort Sill Times or whatever, and he's like, "What'd you think of that, Wolf?" And I was like, "What are you talking about, Sergeant Major?" Because he was Sergeant Major, remember? He was acting Sergeant Major
It must have been right after I left.
because he was over everybody, dude. He was the whole battalion thing.
That's because everyone was deployed doing stuff and
Yeah,
they were
dude,
just
we were
like,
rear D. You had to call him Sergeant Major, dude.
yeah, they were just like, yeah, you're in charge, whatever.
Figure it out. So yeah, he sent me an interview and he's like, "What'd you think of that?" And I was like, "I don't know what you mean." He's like, "That interview." I was like, "Oh, that was you." He's like, "Got you hooked up." Dude, he was acting like he got like sent girls over to my room.
Who was the captain on Rear D? Oh wait, I remember who it was.
That dork, he was a dorky guy, but he was pretty cool, man. I liked him.
I remember who it was.
He had dude, he looked like a cartoon too. He had glasses that big. He would always talk to me.
Yeah, I don't really remember talking much to anybody. I was just really counting the days down.
Dude, you would walk everywhere. Me and all of Rear D would have to take off for like these miles runs. Do you remember that? They ran us into the ground, dude. I don't
Wait,
know.
what? You had to run places?
I don't know where you're getting that we didn't do anything on Rear D. Do you remember Parrish would say that all the time? Oh my God. Say shit to each other that Parrish used to say we don't realize took from him.
Wait, so you were saying you guys had to run everywhere?
Dude, First Sergeant Blizzard did not like being our rear D. He would do annoying, like we had room inspections sometimes from 5 o'clock at night to like 10, and we'd have to go room by room. He's like, figure out how many dressers are in each room. Dude, it was not fun, man. It was not fun. It was not a lollygag for me.
I liked it. It was chill. I don't remember listening to anybody. I just don't remember like caring at all. Yeah,
Yeah.
I hurt my foot. I literally the doctor was like, "Do you want to?" He's like, "I might have to put you on a permanent profile," which meant like you don't have to run anymore. And I was like, "Yeah, dude. Yeah. Let's do that, bro." And then for the rest of PT, I either just like they made you like walk in the big square or I just walked to the gym and I was like, it was pretty sick.
You should have went to Korea. You would have had a lot of fun in Korea, dude.
Dude, that's what I was telling Norden. Norden hated Korea.
Because it sucked.
Did it?
You'd have 2 good weekends in a row, right? And then the next 3 weeks would just be awful. It'd be hell. So I think Norton was in
Why?
my unit. I think that's just,
He was there the same time you were, probably.
yeah, I think
I
so. But
mean,
he
yeah,
came over to
JC.
my room in Korea and we got trashed together, like blackout shit. Yeah,
Trash.
we got from riggedy riggedy wreck. I have a funny story about Korea if you'd like to hear it. It's pretty good. We had a 4 day weekend. Let's just say the 4 day weekend was Friday to Monday and we came back Tuesday, right? Now, obviously, every human being in the army, when you have a 4 day weekend, you don't shave because you want to like recover your face, right? So on the Monday prior to us coming back, I went to the PX and I was just walking, you know, just walking, and then somebody grabs me by my arm like a teacher does when you're in middle school, and he goes, "Hey, hey, can I talk to you for a second?" I'm like, "Yeah, what's up?" And he's like, and he goes, "What unit are you with?" And I go, and dude, I swear I didn't think about it. It just came out, and I was like, "Charlie 238," and he goes, "Okay." and he just lets me go. Now, the reason I had to think about it there for a second, because there was two units where he was. There was 138 and 637.
Warheads on
Yeah,
foreheads?
I didn't mean to do this, right? I combined the two units. So there was 138, 637. So I said 137. I said Charlie 137. That's my that I told him that was my unit. So I left with my buddy and we got on the bus and we're talking and he's like, "Who do you think that was?" I was like, and we went to PT and guess who was poking around the PT area? That guy that had grabbed me like he was a middle school teacher. That was the Peninsula Sergeant Major.
Peninsula Sergeant Major?
That's what a title is, right? So when you go over there, you're broken down into little sections. There's a commander of right. There's the commander of the Pacific. Yeah, that's the Pacific. There's the commander of what's ever going on in Japan, what's ever going on in Korea. So he was the Peninsula Sergeant Major, and he's messing around and he's looking for me. And my buddy that I was with, he comes up to me. He's like, "Hey, he's looking for you." I was like, "Yeah, I know." And people started talking and they're like, apparently somebody didn't shave and he saw him at the PX. I was like, oh my God. So he just kept looking around. He'd go over there, he'd go over there, he'd run over here, he'd do sprints. Dude, he was angry because he's supposed to know all the
Does he
units,
find
right?
you eventually?
Wait. It gets pretty good. So he doesn't find me in PT, right? So he started telling people if he doesn't find me, he's going to start smoking people. And my buddy Christensen was who it was. Christensen asked me, he's like, "Hey man, this guy was a Mormon, something else." And so he was like, "Hey man, if he starts smoking people, are you gonna own up to what you did?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "We'll see, won't we?" PT's over, so I go get changed. I shave, and I never wore my glasses, but I put my glasses on this time so I could change my image a little bit, right?
What do you think? You're like Tom Cruise? Do you think he wouldn't recognize?
Fucking Clark Kent, dude.
He's just like, "Oh, I can't recognize this person with glasses."
He's so different. You put on glasses. I don't know who this is. So I walk in. I have my uniform on, my ACUs, my glasses, and I walk in, and I'm just standing there. I was like, "Where's this other guy? We were supposed to meet for breakfast." And I turn around, and he's right there, dude. He's just standing there. I was like, "Dude, when is this guy gonna leave?"
Oh, it was you?
No, he never caught me, dude. Yeah, he never caught me.
He was just coincidentally getting breakfast and didn't know it
Yeah,
was you.
didn't know it was me. It was the glasses, dude. You can't, dude. You don't know who Clark Kent is.
You had
Clark
you had
Kent.
sunglasses on inside?
No. I had prescriptions. It's
Ah,
pretty fun. Pretty fun times. I was running around trying not to get caught.
fun times. So what year were you in Korea? 13 or 14?
I was there. Yeah, 13, 14. Yeah.
Yeah, I was out, dude. I was living life.
I got orders while I was in the bagpipers, and the NCO that ran the pipers, he didn't like me very much at all. And he was like,
I wonder why.
dude, I don't know. And dude, I'm a really likable guy. I don't know. And he was like, "Wolf, we don't run from orders." And I was like, he's like, I got connections with the post commander, and I'm not gonna call this favor in for you." I was not gonna ask you that.
What do you mean? Was he thinking you were trying to get out of Korea?
Dude, it was literally, I heard that I got orders for Korea. Because when you get orders for Korea, it's like everybody else knows except you that you're going to Korea. And he told me, he's like, "I heard you got orders for Korea." And I was like, "Okay, that's cool. I'm going to Korea." He's like, "Yeah, I'm not going to call a favor in for this. You know, we don't run from orders." I was like, I don't know what makes you think that I was going to ask you to get me out of this, but that's not how this was about to go down.
He probably thought you'd ask him to get the orders changed to stay on the bagpipers or something.
No, dude, it was completely like there was no reason for him to say that. Never brought that up to him. I just didn't understand why he'd say that. But 6 months later, guess who was sitting in Korea with me?
He was there too?
Hell yeah, dude.
That's funny, dude. You know what I realized a lot of people did on Rear D? This idea did not dawn on me at all. People who were in my boat who had like 8 or less months and you needed like, I think you needed like 11 to be forced to go. with the unit
Oh,
overseas.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So they were like, hey, Wellington, if you want to, extend for a few months to go. And I was like, no, I'm good because I hate all of you. So, bro, a bunch of people, there was like 5 other people on Rear D who were all like, I'm getting out. And I was like, cool, like we're all ETSing. And I don't remember his name, bro. But people essentially lied and said they were getting out under the guise of like last minute being like, never mind, I changed my mind, I'm staying in. They knew the whole time. They stayed in America, and then like 2 months before they ETS'd,
They
they
re-enlisted.
purposely re-enlisted so they didn't have to go. And I was like, yo, that's actually really smart.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And they probably thought I was going to do that, but I was like, no, I'm going to go home and make way more money going to school.
I remember people would ask you, "What are you gonna do?" People would ask you what you're gonna get, what you're gonna do when you get out of the army. Like, you're not gonna have, like, you're gonna be an amputee.
So how are you going to
It's
survive?
like, dude, what are you gonna do when you get out of the army? Like, what is out there? Is there like a T-Rex that like hunts you? It's like, dude, I'm gonna get a job.
Bro, because you know what, dude? It started to get like so annoying that they would ask you so many times, like, what are you gonna do without, $500 a week working 15 hours a day, which if you do the math, like I remember one time I did the math out and I'm like, yo, I'm getting paid $3.50 an hour. I can
Well,
literally go work full time at McDonald's. I'll be okay. People were like, yeah, but you're not factoring in the free food. And I'm like, the free eggs in a bag? It's eggs in a bag. Dude. Like you remember that? I remember coming to basic and the first time I saw army eggs was it's a big plastic bag and it was like orange yolk and they just dumped it and I was like, that's not real food. That's not that's not real food. And they're like, what about the free medical? I'm like, this medical is terrible. Every time you got hurt, no matter what, you sprained your ankle, you got a busted up knee. They're like, here's 800 milligrams of ibuprofen and don't run for 5 days. 5 days does not heal an injury. And besides, even when they did say that, do you know how many times I was like, hey, I can't run for 5 days? And they were like, yeah, but you can ruck.
they
God
would
damn.
figure out ways around it. So you're like, dude, this is never gonna heal.
They're like, we're gonna make you do other things so you can get more hurt. And then when you decide to get out, they make like that Pikachu meme face where they're like you want to leave after we hurt you?
Dude, I remember seeing like they would be mean to, dude, they were pretty rough on you, man.
No, you know what's funny
You
though,
just
dude?
kept going. It's like, dude,
Yeah.
shut up.
Is bro, like they didn't like me, but I never got demoted. I never got an Article 15 and I never even had extra duty. I never got in trouble. And I think that's why they rode me so hard because they're like, yo, this dude's gonna slip up one time. My only goal, Wolf, was to last the rest of the time and get my benefits. Because if I said the wrong thing and lost my college or my VA, all of this would have been for nothing. And I was like, you're not
Everything.
taking it away. You're not taking it
Thing.
from me.
Dude, do you remember what they did to Farley, dude? And Mackenzie?
In one of the last episodes, we talked about Farley, but what did they do? What did they do to Mackenzie?
So Mackenzie was the surfer guy. He was the funny, he's always happy, goofy, tall, skinny surfer guy, right? And there was a huge like surge of like, we got to check everybody's room right now, right? Do you remember that?
I mean, I remember them doing that pretty frequently. Yeah.
Yeah, it was, but it started when I got there, didn't it? When me
I don't
and
know.
Meeks got there, uh, there was a lull. There was like, I don't know, like 3 or 4 or 5 months where they didn't really mess with us. They just kind of left us alone. But like after that time period, after that period of time, dude, they started looking at everybody's room like every other day, right? I can't remember the arms room, NCO, the E5.
What did they find in Mackenzie's room?
What did they find in Mackenzie's room? Well, let me tell you what they found in Mackenzie's room. Motherfucker,
Mother.
you, you damn.
Yes, I do remember that. They had MPs driving and sitting around the local smoke shops because
Yeah.
they sold the spice to soldiers and I remember people would get it, and I'm just like, they're watching your car pull up. And even if you're just buying like tobacco or something, they're gonna know to watch you now. And then they're probably just gonna go search your room now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And I never got the whole thing with doing it. Like, why do it? You're in the army. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Pretty
So did
easy.
they kick him out? What happened?
Well, yeah. dude, they put him on what 45 or whatever they call him. I don't know. They sent his ass through the ringer.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think they did something similar to Farley too, didn't they? Because they took away all of his benefits. Like you couldn't go to college or anything.
Yeah, no, they did him pretty quick. He got caught, and then like within like the same week, they were like, "You're out."
Yeah, you're done. And yeah, Mackenzie got busted. I remember that one really well. And then I can't remember what happened to Farley. Did he drunk drive or something? That was after you got out, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Do you remember Makes? Makes was
yeah,
fun, man. Makes was fun. When he was in a good mood, he was fun. If he was in a bad mood, it's like, dude, I don't want to talk to you.
yeah. I don't know why people would go back home and do drugs, knowing the first Monday they'd come back. They'd tell you, they're like, "When
Yeah.
you come back on Monday, we're gonna make you piss in a cup." And they'd be like, "Hey,
Watch.
they're gonna be like, hey, I'm gonna smoke on Wednesday, knowing it takes 2 months to leave my system." And then when they pissed out, they were like, "Oh, oh no,
I
no, my
can't
free
believe
college."
it.
And then they lose their college and their everything, dude.
Yeah.
Which, if you think about it, is hundreds of thousands of dollars. You couldn't wait like 2 more years to lose 100,000. If I told you, hey, I'm gonna pay you 100 grand if you don't smoke the next 12 months, I think most people would be like, that's a pretty good deal.
It's a great deal. That was like it was like a sport.
But
Nicholson was
and
fun. I enjoyed watching people like other than Mackenzie because I really liked Mackenzie, but other than him, I enjoyed watching people like get in trouble and get yelled at and just like sent through the ringer, dude. I couldn't get enough of it. Like Ball, do you remember Ball?
I felt bad for Ball, dude.
He looked like
He
Stephen
was
King. He looked like Stephen King, didn't he?
he was a nice guy, dude.
He was a
He just
great guy. Yeah. He would talk like this. Do you remember? He would talk like through his neck and then out of his mouth. But I remember he got busted for driving under the influence, right? He was drunk. I didn't say this to anybody because I didn't want to tell anybody, but I was like, dude, this is great. And dude, if I couldn't believe it when we got called to the second formation the next weekend. I was like, dude, this is fantastic.
it was rough to stand there and watch people's rank get ripped off their chest, and they just like they'd rip it off, throw it on the floor, and you couldn't make any facial reaction. You were just standing there like as your whole career just went in 1 second was gone.
Dude, and when I
God.
would see that, I'd just be like in my head, it's like, dude, this is amazing. This does not get better.
All right, we'll have to tell more funny stories next time.
Yeah.